All right, so welcome back to the Gut Chat podcast with Shamsul and myself, Chuang. We've had the benefit of the President of America, Donald Trump, come through our shores. 5-day whirlwind visit, Malaysia, Japan, Korea. He's come and stamped his, his mark of Trumpness in the region, right? One side of the camp says it was a fantastic landmark win for Trump. There's another camp which says that, well, it could have been better in some respects. Obviously, right? Because Trump is a divisive character. I know where you're going to stand on this issue, Sam. So maybe you can kick us off the discussion with the KL Peace Accords. He was in Malaysia and the trade deals that he inked with Malaysia.
I thought that actually, from the point of view of Malaysia and Malaysians, right? I thought we pulled off a good show. You know, I was pleasantly surprised, to be honest. I don't know how you felt about that.
How did you read the fact that he allowed Anwar into the beast? I mean, obviously that's optics, right?
Right.
But what message do you think he was trying to send?
Well, I think the message throughout, actually, if you talk about even overall, when I pieced together all the visits, right?
Yeah.
I was actually quite impressed because why? And I said so as well, that I expect Trump to bring along his New York
braggadocio,
you know,
yeah.
And he tamped it down, and he came off very statesmanlike, in my opinion.
I know.
Right?
I was listening to his opening overture when he was meeting Xi Jinping, and he was saying all the nice things, all the right things, right? Which is very unbecoming of Donald Trump. Oh, President Xi is an old friend. We go back a long way. He's a great guy. He leads a great country. We're going to do business together for many, many years. And this has been this trade war that's happening between the two for years, right?
And actually, if you look at it, since we start in Kuala Lumpur, right?
Yeah.
You know, even his informal gestures of coming down.
He comes and starts dancing
with the troupe. With the dancing troupe, right? The informality of that made for good TV, you know?
It also broke the ice in some sense.
Correct.
Right?
And I think it did a lot of good for our own Prime Minister's image as well, that he, that they shared the ride to the summit in the Beast. And I think from that standpoint, I felt that actually overall the whole trip, Trump brought a statesman-like quality that I did not expect, actually. So from that standpoint, I thought the diplomacy was like, this is not the Trump I was expecting. Okay? And in essence, Kuala Lumpur, like you said, his opening remarks of everybody, mentioning of the Indonesian president as his friend, talking up Anwar and all that. This is a salesman.
So let's be very clear. He's been very well advised. He's been well advised of the cultural nuances of Southeast Asia, the importance of faith, the importance of mutual admiration. Although, we know, right, what he says on the surface may not be what he does and executes and delivers to his American people beyond the superficial, right?
Yeah.
And let's be very clear, he walked away from this regional visit with a lot of trade deals, which still favored America, and a lot of investment commitments to America. Yeah. What it did for us, though, and you will probably disagree, but I think he's actually caused a little bit of uncertainty in the region, especially for Anwar, especially in Malaysia, or for people who have, or for countries who have pivoted slightly more to China in recent years, right? So now they've been enamored by the Donald Trump visit, right? They've been blown away by the whole cavalcade and so on and so forth, right? And then because now they're like, wow, Trump is here. There's the whole show and dance. So then does it upset the equilibrium that they've achieved with China in the past? What does it do? So it's been good for America. I don't know about Asia.
Well, that's the thing.
Do you know what I mean, right?
I know. That is exactly what I thought. I thought he came here with the almost a very specific objective of actually recalibrating, as we said in the previous episode.
Yes.
Recalibrating the equilibrium.
Allies. Yeah.
And it is so much of a a businessman marketing, um, uh, shall we say, tactic.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
He knows the audience. He knows the objective. He comes in and he executes. Right? And I think whether you look at it, does it upset the apple cart or not?
I think it upsets the apple cart.
Yeah, but it basically depends on how one looks at it.
Not for him, for us, in some sense, because
for Asia, it becomes like, and this is where people been saying is that it's like, you almost feel ignored in Asia, right? Or in ASEAN region. I mean, ASEAN region, we're talking about what, 680 million people, right? Consumers, right? So it's not a small region, number one. Number two, we are also actually the most, in terms of growth, I think we have we probably in the Southeast Asia have the biggest potential in terms of vibrancy of growth in economically, right? When you look at the region. So for me, I was like, he's taking back the region into the corner of America. So it depends on how one looks at it, right? If you're China, you're looking at it, and this goes way back. And then if you look at Kuala Lumpur, to name it, the Kuala Lumpur Accords for the Thai-Cambodian conflict, you're giving face to the host, right? And it's all this diplomacy, the statecraft of diplomacy that has been put forth. I thought it was a masterpiece.
Masterpiece for him. So the thing is, he's so well advised and so well prepared, and such a maverick and performer on the global stage in front of the cameras, right? But you know what? By him coming here, not only does it disrupt the kind of like uneasy equilibrium that China has achieved with ASEAN and all its investments, its wallet diplomacy in recent years, right? It also exposes ASEAN's frailties. For example, right? Trump gets the plaudits in the global media for brokering the Thai-Cambodia dispute.
Not just the global media, actually, if you don't mind me saying.
Yeah.
Actually, I was very surprised of the regional media's coverage.
Yes, correct.
It was extremely positive.
Correct. So he wins local, he wins global hearts. Fine. Fantastic. Great for Trump, right? But it means at a finer granular level, who's going to pick up the pieces? What happens with, for example, in terms of border disputes? Thailand and Cambodia have been fighting for 500 years, You don't tell me one guy from America comes in and it's just like peace forevermore. No, right? What happens if there's another infraction? Who enforces that peace accord, right? And then there's other things, right? Other things like, for example, Timor-Leste gets admitted to ASEAN. Fine, right? But what about the South China Sea? Did America talk about South China Sea? What about enforcement there, right? So it exposes, I think, ASEAN and Malaysia's allegiances to whether China or America or both. How does it navigate that? I don't know.
This is where I think
it's the details which have been left wanting. I think that's the issue.
I think that comes to the last part I wanted to talk about, which is Pete Hegseth is still in Malaysia, right? And he's meeting all the military ministers from Asia. They've signed a 10-year agreement with India in terms of military cooperation. Okay, they have brought up the area. He's even told China that they are not relinquishing their interest in Southeast Asia and the South China Sea. Okay, so. And Malaysia ourselves has actually brought up that subject with Hegseth.
Yeah.
Okay. It just came out this today, right? On these talks and Southeast Asia and the disputes. So they're gonna meet the Philippines. They're gonna meet Thailand, right? Because they've already met our defense minister. So Hegseth. So that's why I say Pentagon has come down here. Right? So I think the concern that whilst we say about this recalibration and whether Trump wins, to me, I think not just Trump wins or America wins, it's a win for Asia as well. Because if you look at it, right, what has been happening in Southeast Asia? Actually, we've lost control. I mean, they are budging into boats at the Spratlys, which is right next to the Philippines, right? Those are Philippine.
Who is they? When you say they,
China.
Who? Okay.
China, right? And and building installations over there, which is actually and claiming that to be their territorial waters, right? So this is something that whether depending on how one want to look at it, but I've always said that you want to be banking on this so-called wallet diplomacy that China started with the BRI and in Africa and East Asia. You look at the result of that. That's not, if you ask me, that's not what I want. What I want is actually a trade deal, trading with all parties that actually makes sense for all parties involved. Okay, I don't want like what happens in Pahang, right, where they built a big factory, and every installation, hardware, and even manpower is imported from China. I don't want that to happen, right? And the problem for example, in I believe in the Maldives, is it the Maldives or is it Sri Lanka? I'm sorry, Sri Lanka and almost every other country, Kenya, where they build infrastructure. At the end of the day, this infrastructure, it's very easy for you to build infrastructure in third world countries where you are giving away money to build it, and then at the end of the day, when it cannot pay for itself, you take control
so
of it.
Those infrastructure deals with China were sketchy at best. I mean, in
sketchy.
Retrospect, we have seen the suspicion of those deals, right?
Yeah.
But for us to say, well, on one hand, you might say that with the US coming back to this part of the world, there's some level of security.
Balancing.
Yeah, there's some level of security, at least in ideologically speaking, that they might offer, right? But you've also got to contend with the fact that I think a lot of governments, including Malaysia, they might have viewed this internally, at least not in public domain, right? They might have viewed the US visit as great for headlines, great for media optics, but can you rely on what he's saying? Can you rely on policy? Do you know what I mean? So there might have been some mitigation of this whole idea that are the statements reliable,
I
right?
think,
and you see the narrative that Anwar has put out in the local press about the trade deals. He talks about the reversibility of those trade talks, which show that there's a fragility to those accords. Do you know what I mean, right?
I think,
and so people might say, oh yeah, but can they be relied upon? Boleh harap or not? You know what I'm saying?
Well, let's put it this way. I am of this opinion. I think in terms of reliability, the only concern that we always have in a democracy is actually change of government and change in policies.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? And it happens both ways. It happens with our governments in Southeast Asia.
100%.
Right? And it can happen in America as well, right? So that means all I know is actually the priority changes if that were to happen, right? Because it's not just us, it's also for them to say, okay, what happens if actually another government come in? For example, I think one of the reasons that after Japan, you've got a new government now. So you've got the first lady prime minister in Japan. The optics were great. And she's apparently a protege of one of his good friends, which is Shinzo Abe, who was murdered, right? So you've got a realignment of, and I really feel that actually he's achieved that recalibration on behalf of America. That's for sure.
100%. He
right?
comes,
do you agree with 100%. Me on that part?
So he's done what is best for America, which is his mandate originally anyway.
Right.
I'm just suggesting that his advent here has probably stirred the waters, and made things a little bit more murky for us. It's been a major W for America. That's pretty much a certainty lah. But has it been as good for us? I'm not sure. I'm not sure.
okay, we probably would disagree on this matter.
Yeah.
Because I would like to see more American presence in Southeast Asia and in Asia in general. Okay. I think they are more reliable in terms of they are ideologically, they are more in line with us because we are all democracies in one way or another. We are capitalists in one way or another. Doing business with them, here's the thing that actually people find it maybe, and where I said, and I keep saying this, America has been a free market all along, but actually that free market has been taken advantage of by everybody else when our own economy are not a free market.
Yeah.
Right? We have high tariff barriers. We have high non-tariff barriers even more. Okay? So when people say, we are giving away our sovereignty, I saw Mahathir saying that, I almost want to say, hey, dude.
No.
Right?
Yeah. Mahathir is irrelevant.
I know.
Yeah.
But I'm just giving it an example, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Who are we giving APs to in order to import cars? Right?
Your buddies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, to me, when America comes in and say, we've got to have fair trade, I want this trade barrier come down, right? And I'm willing to actually accept us exporting to America with a certain amount of tariff that is reasonable.
19%.
Because we have our own tariffs, right? But our non-tariff barriers are so high that we have monopoly in basic goods, even
everything.
Like rice.
We've got monopolies.
Are artificially expensive.
In Malaysia, you've got monopolies on telecoms, on national power, on defense, on airports.
There you go.
on just about everything which is of.
And that is why we are in the middle income trap.
Yeah, because it's artificial. It's an artificial economy.
Correct. So if America coming down here and bringing down those barriers, I'm all for it. Right? So I come from a different perspective. I want to see these barriers down because if I can buy a car, even with the exchange rate 3 or 4 times more expensive, cheaper in another country for my daughter, why do I have to pay 4 times the price here for the same car? It just makes no sense to me. Who is benefiting from all this?
Yeah, I get your point. And look, let's just go through the details, right?
Right.
US exports, non-tariff barriers, market access in things like aircraft, LNG, semiconductors, coal. We come into buying American goods, about $66 million directly. We spend $70 billion in the US over 10 years, right? We've got 19%. 19% is less than half what China is paying. Because I think China pays 47 from 57.
Correct.
I get all that, right?
Yeah.
For me, free trade of goods and services, fantastic, right? It's just that because I know how America thinks, they're all about American exceptionalism. One winner takes all, everything, right? I don't think they can countenance a market or partners who can play both sides of the game. At some point in time in the future, we've got to decide who we're getting in bed with. I think that's the problem longer term for us in ASEAN. And we don't think as a bloc. We don't think in terms of 13, 14 people or states, countries in one bloc. We don't think of that. We think very individualistically. We can see that, right? We don't even help each other with all the border disputes in South China Sea.
Actually, if you think about it, I saw the BBC.
At some point in time in the future, ASEAN and its countries in ASEAN have to decide who are they getting in bed with.
Well, if you were to ask me, I would rather be in bed with somebody who has the same values as I do, as much as I can. It's as simple as that.
Correct. And that's you, right?
Yeah. But it's as simple as that.
Right. But you're not the only person in Malaysia. There's 35 million people.
That is why if anybody read my column or my opinion piece on FMT, right?
That's a cheap plug there.
That's a cheap plug there, right? Which
we'll put the link below lah.
We'll put the link inside. Yeah, we'll put the link inside. On the column itself. I call it a global reset of a new American leadership, right? And I think that for me personally, I've been doing business with American associates, and I find actually doing business with American the easiest. I can shake hand and the deal is done. Okay? My concern only becomes actually when I deal with companies that actually have lawyers running it. Okay? Right? And it's the
Those
same
deals
everywhere.
Are the worst.
And it's the same everywhere.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So if you have lawyers running your companies, right? Even in Malaysia, it's a very different animal.
Yeah.
Okay? So, but if you have if you have, I'm not saying that, lawyers are bad. What I'm trying to say is that if the company is run just purely on the basis of dictate of legalism.
Okay, so you're talking about companies from Europe or from Asia?
Anywhere.
Yeah.
Right? Anywhere. Okay, I'll give you an example. Actually, one of the big American, I shouldn't say the name, I guess, one of the big American oil companies, right? I mean, I thought, coming from America, I thought dealing with them was like, was going to be easy. But what I found out was actually, I was dealing with lawyers. And they were not making any decision without their legal people actually making the decision on their behalf.
I had the same example when I tried to do a deal with a British company. Had to meet with the lawyers, and the way the lawyers structured the contract was bullshit. We left the UK. We didn't do the deal with them in the end.
Yeah.
It was ridiculous.
But when I deal with companies that are run, even though they are corporation, but they are run by really entrepreneur
types,
owners, right?
Very fast decisions.
Very fast decision, very simple. And I find Americans is the simplest to handle and actually the most trustworthy in terms of shake hand, deal is done, buddy. Okay, let's go and have a beer.
Yeah.
Right?
What is that phrase? My word is stronger than oak or something, right?
Yeah.
Not always.
I have, the second to them, actually, if you ask me, from my experience, initially the Japanese were very difficult. All right? But I think they have evolved somehow that by the time the first meeting can be tough, but by the time they trust you, things become so easy. So that's the two, if you ask me, in terms of, I've never done the business with Koreans, so I can't speak for that, right? Okay. You want to deal with Chinese companies? You really better understand that culture, and you really better be careful about your IP. Okay, so that's all I'm going to say. So as far as I look at it, right, I think this recalibration and how Trump has, if I were to say it to our American audience, I think that was a masterclass of tradecraft and diplomacy. Okay, from Kuala Lumpur to Busan in South Korea to Japan, right? I mean, having the Prime Minister of Japan on the USS George Washington was something else, right?
It's a show of strength.
Oh
right?
my God!
Right? He comes in with all his big guns. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent was there. Common Secretary Howard Lutnick was there.
Rubio was there.
Marco Rubio was the Secretary of State, right?
Right. And he left behind Hegseth.
Correct. And Hegseth is still around. He's speaking up the pieces.
They're talking about all. Now they're talking about all what your concerns are.
Correct.
And my big concern, actually, if you ask me, right? Here's the thing that is very interesting. So I mean, let's wrap up the roundabout a bit, right? Okay. So I think he's achieved the purpose for America, which I think was sorely undercovered by the mainstream media in America, if you were to ask me. When I look at the mainstream media in America, I think because they are so much pro-Democrat.
Who do you read when you refer to the mainstream media?
If you look at mainstream media, you look at CNN, you look at You look at CNBC, you look at even the BBC or you look at CBS and whatnot. It's so downplayed. And even if you look at the analysis, right, they're asking the same question, which is basically, can we trust the Chinese in terms of whatever they have committed to us? Here's the thing, right? The difference is, in the first term of Trump, when he did all these deals, he was already on his way out.
Yeah.
Right? He's not even 1 year he's made this deal. So we know, for example, let's say the meeting with Xi Jinping in Busan, right? Do you know the optics of that meeting? That was a military it was a military base that used to be owned by the Americans, that used to be run by the Americans, right? So that is, and you know what's so funny?
My only reference to Busan is the train that had
to Busan. So, I mean, and he got the soybean deal.
Yeah.
He got the rare earth deal done.
Exemption. It's a 1 year amnesty.
You know what? That's all he needs. If you were to ask me, because he's already started to decouple the rare earth from China.
It gives him a year to stock up.
Yeah.
And to de-dependent or to reduce dependence on China. Yeah.
And he's already, even before going there, before coming to that meeting, he's already secured the mineral discussions with Australia, right? And other countries. So, and not to mention what they are already doing in America itself. So the whole process, you've got leverage already. Here's the thing about Trump that people must understand. This is a businessman president. And he is playing with leverage. And the beauty of what I saw was this. He knows he has the leverage and he plays nice. And that was why I was so impressed. Because he made everybody look good. He got good media coverage from the region. So basically, as you said, you may think that he's muddying the water, but what he's doing is he's already opened up the region back to being America friendly. So now you've got to decide, who do you want to actually be more reliant on? The guy who's going to protect your shipping lane? Okay? Or the chap that is going to run over your Coast Guard boat, and then ram into each other.
You know what? I didn't quite, that didn't sit comfortably with me.
Sure.
So whether in Korea or whether in Malaysia or whether in China or Japan,
right.
The Asian leaders were fawning over Donald Trump. I mean, he's obviously who he is, right?
Yeah.
I would have loved, I think when I was watching them on TV, I would have loved to see how Harry Lee Kuan Yew would have dealt with Trump when he comes through the region, and what kind of what kind of posture, what kind of positioning he takes. Because Harry Lee Kuan Yew is no pushover, right? Nor was Mahathir in his pomp. Let's be very clear. Those two leaders were truly statesmen. Say what you want about Mahathir, but he knew how to put Malaysia on the global map, and he had an ability to stand up to the most powerful leaders in the world, despite the fact that at the time Malaysia was tiny, Singapore even tinier, right? So I know this time Trump didn't go to Singapore for whatever reason. I would have just loved to see how Kuan Yew would have addressed or would have just faced Donald Trump and what he would have done.
But if you ask me really, right, I have to give credit where credit is due.
Correct. Credit where credit is due. Trump is Trump, and he's done a good job. But
I thought Anwar did it well too. If you ask me, he was not fawning.
I thought he was, man.
You did?
Yeah.
I thought he was not. I thought it was a reasonable. I thought it was reasonable. Reasonable host. Way of handling things. If you want to talk about fawning, sorry, my Indonesian friends.
There was a bit there, right?
Yes. Yeah. Okay. So my apologies to my Indonesian friends, but there was a bit quite of that going on.
You can be very intimidated because he comes in with bells and whistles, all guns blazing, right?
Yeah,
and you're like, wow. I mean,
but we were the host. Okay, we were the host. Yeah. We did a good job as a host, right? I don't think we were fawning. We were the host. As you would come to if I go to a Chinese New Year
you're gracious, like you're host,
festival,
you're gracious, right?
We are very gracious people.
But if I'm a Tan Sri, I'm a big cheese, right? You come in and you're like, oh, you know the
I won't do that
thing. Yeah,
I won't
correct.
do that shit.
That's not my right.
But to me, it's very simple. To me, it's very simple. You come to my house for Hari Raya.
Yeah.
Okay.
You're gracious, lah.
I am going to be extremely gracious.
Yeah.
Right.
But you don't kowtow.
But you know what? Some people may look at it as kowtowing. Some people may look at it as kowtowing. But I can tell you one thing. You pick anything. Deepavali, Chinese New Year, or Hari Raya, okay? How we treat our guests.
Yeah.
It can't bother to fawning, you know. I can tell you that.
On the runway, right?
Right.
When Trump comes off the plane.
Dude, that is official. That always happens. Look, they do the same thing for the Brunei Sultan lah.
Yeah, so it's half a dozen of one and six of the other, right?
They would have done the same thing for the Brunei Sultan.
Yeah.
They would have done the same thing for Modi. Okay? They would have done the same thing for Xi Jinping. All right? So I will leave it at, that's my opinion. Okay?
Yeah.
When you talk about fawning, so I think, you know, you don't need to be, you don't need to show the other party that you are also somebody. That's the part that I like. Actually, you don't have to, you know, when you talk about Kuan Yew or whatever, I think he's very good at it. He doesn't have to, you know, and even, you know, but it's always there.
Kuan Yew had a steel about him. He had a resolve about him.
So that's what I said.
Yeah.
It's about being statesmanlike.
Yeah.
And I find, I did feel that actually Trump's tour was very statesmanlike. Okay.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think it's quite clear that we are very positive on Trump. I mean, I think that's quite clear, right? I am just looking at how we have postured ourselves in front of them. It's a little bit starstruck. You know, we have been a little bit starstruck. And of course, right, who wouldn't, right? You got the aircraft carrier, you got the beast, you got the Secret Service, you got the Treasury Secretary.
Let's put it this way.
You know, you got Real Madrid in town, right?
All I can say is this.
Hell, man. You know what I mean?
All I can say is this. All I can say is he did his job. Right?
Correct. Trump
did his job.
He's well prepared. Right?
He did his job well.
Right. He executed.
And that is something that I say that the mainstream media does not realize. What he has done is shifted the balance. And now what they're doing is, after that, okay, I would comment even one thing about the meeting with China, right? He got what he wanted from China, actually. It's nuts. If you think about it. If you ask me, even the photo op, you look at the video. Chong.
I saw them at the table, right?
No, just look at the video when they were together. I almost felt two things. I said, is Xi not feeling well? That's one first thing that I come to my mind. The second part is actually, it doesn't feel like, or he doesn't want to be there.
Body language.
The body language was like, he doesn't want to be there, right? And, you know, Trump was being gracious about everything. And then when you look at the meeting that they had, Xi was reading, he was practically reading a script.
No, he was reading a script.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was reading a script.
That's not how normally people do things.
Well, what was interesting for me was that whole discussion. I think 7 representatives from China side, 7 representatives, visibly I could see 7. Maybe there's more behind the thing. And then it's public, right? There's reporters there. Right. And then what I've noticed as well, because there's a lot of foreign press. I used to be a member of the foreign press. And as soon as Trump finishes his speech, the first opportunity, the reporters tear into Trump and ask him about the nuclear tests he's about to do.
Yeah.
And I found that interesting because what bigger news can there be than a discussion between President Xi Jinping and Prime President Donald Trump, right? And a 1-year amnesty on this trade, this whole thing, right?
Yeah.
And 47 from 57. I mean, that's big news, right? Financial markets fall.
Do you know
the
how
press
long?
focus on the nuclear tests. I'm thinking on the one hand, you're
Who
saying...
asked that question, by the way? Did you know?
A female British reporter. I don't know from where. I couldn't
Probably
see,
The
right?
Guardian
Probably,
or the BBC.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Or someone working for the New York Times. I don't know, right? But the thing is, right? So on the one hand, you've got this seeming truce between two leaders of the greatest countries on earth.
Biggest economy in the world.
But then on the other hand, Donald Trump in another news conference says that he's going to resume nuclear tests for the first time in I think 50 years because he needs to keep up with the Indians and the Chinese, right? So you've got right. So which Donald Trump are we talking about? Are you this one or this one? Which one? So that's what I mean about U.S. reliability.
No, that's what I mean about.
So Donald Trump is keeping his enemies guessing, right? It's a classic Sun Tzu out of war kind of tactic, right? You got to keep them on your toes. That's what he's doing. I get it, right? But for the rest of the fucking world, you're like, how do we position? Do you know what I mean? So he wins, America wins. That's clear. The rest of the world, where do we go? How do we do it? Obviously, right? What do you do, right? What do the Indians think now? Oh, America's gonna resume nuclear tests?
You must really look at. Well, I mean, if people are doing nuclear tests, right?
I understand. You have no choice.
You've got no choice, and not just no choice. You have to keep up to date with it anyhow, right? But I like the timing of when he announced it.
Correct.
Actually, you know when he announced it? It was about, I think, around less than an hour before his meeting with Xi Jinping.
Exactly.
Yes.
Architected, of course, right? It's to keep you guessing, right?
Except that is, in a way,
genius. Because his media strategy, his whole diplomacy strategy, it was on point for sure, 100%. For the rest of the world, we're like, what the fuck do we do?
I'm very easy. This is where I come in terms of my opinion. And that's why I wrote the piece I wrote at FMT. Is that you must know who is the winner. Okay? I bet on the winning horse.
So you see, the thing is, at the same time, right, although the financial markets dropped, and this is weird, right, because when you have a trade truce between China and America, something which has been boiling over for years, right, financial markets drop. But AI names like NVIDIA crossed 5 trillion market cap.
Yeah.
Right? You got things like
I think it got dragged
Alphabet.
down by a few, I think not Google, was it Microsoft that actually pulled it down? One of them.
So Meta had a really bad outlook. Fine.
Meta had,
so they've been overspent. So, but that's an internal thing, right?
Yeah.
But generally American tech, disruptive tech, especially in AI, they get the benefit. Of course, right? You got these trade deals happening all over the world. And then now you've got this
crypto drop.
It's priced in. So actually it did rise and then it's coming off now because they're pricing in. But again, I mean, there's so many things. So crypto is really volatile.
But you know what? At the end of the day, I really don't look at the stock market as a real big indicator on any given day.
Okay, the stock market is interesting because it's a forward-looking indicator. They rise, they fall before the news events happens. And the probability markets are fantastic, right?
Yeah,
Polymarket, Calcis, yeah. And they're more accurate. I mean, Polymarket call the US election months in advance, right? Months in advance. If you watch the mainstream, you like to talk to the mainstream. If you listen to the mainstream media, you would have thought that the whole election was like on tenterhooks, right?
Yeah.
But the fucking Polymarket had it like 75.
Already
done, man.
Election.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. But I think there goes where actually, I think if you ask me about this recalibration, the fact that India signed a 10-year military deal, cooperation with America, right? In spite of that tariff on the Russian oil because of the Russian oil importation, okay? That tells a lot about this recalibration, okay? You know Japan is recalibrated. You look at South Korea, one of the biggest concern with respect to South Korea because this government is more socialist, leftist leaning government. So that's recalibrated as well. So I'm looking at it from the point of view that the world needs a strong America to balance the situation. Okay? Because otherwise, I don't want Chinese drilling rig to be parked next to Bintulu.
Why?
Yeah. Why? Because they'll call it that's their territorial waters. Okay? if they're already doing it at the spot. Have you ever seen the Dine Dash line?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's totally ridiculous, right?
It's more than halfway through to Borneo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, this is what we in Southeast Asia is facing. But if America is so engrossed with the Gulf states, the Saudi or Israel, Europe, and neglecting this region, do you think we can protect ourselves? I don't think we can. Without the 7th Fleet in there, you can forget about it.
Southeast Asia has never been able to protect itself.
Exactly.
We've been Malaysia's the village bicycle of ASEAN. Right, we've had so many. I think the only one is Thailand.
Actually,
right?
Having said that, right, the Japanese practically cycle their way down from Myanmar, from Burma,
and they just walk through.
Yeah,
they just walk through.
Just kicked everybody out.
Right.
Yeah.
And before that, there was the Portuguese, and before that, there's the British, and right.
Yeah. So I mean. Say what you want. I would rather be in bed with capitalists. Okay, I know how they work. I would rather be in bed with the democracy. I know how they work. And actually, I quite love to see a businessman president working his magic. Because then I know, as a businessman, what I'm dealing with. Okay? So the problem, I think, for Asian leaders is, I wonder whether they really understand, because they are all politicians.
Yes, exactly. That's my point, right?
Okay.
They don't know what to make of this guy.
Correct.
And they can't negotiate on equivalent terms.
Call me up.
What is Anwar? Anwar is a career politician.
Yeah.
What was Najib? Najib is a career politician.
So there you go, Chuang. That's where these people should call the two of us.
You know why they won't?
Yeah.
Because they haven't filled their cabinet with caliber, right?
Yeah.
Right? I mean,
very unfortunate, isn't it?
Right? I mean, they fill them with functionaries and
that is why
kind of stuff.
He's doing so well in his second term. Look at his cabinet.
Yeah.
Look at Scott Besson. Look at Lutnick.
They're all individually successful in their own right.
Right.
And then they come on and
how
do
many
national
billionaires
service,
are
right?
on that cabinet?
Yeah.
They built their own companies.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, JD comes from nothing. So,
I was watching this podcast with Howard Lutnick and who's the other guy that was negotiating Gaza?
Steve Witkoff.
Yes, that's right. Witkoff, right?
Yeah.
Long form podcast, right? And I was like, I mean, they've been given a free hand to negotiate Gaza, right?
Yeah.
Why? Because they can.
Yeah.
I mean, they're negotiators, Yeah. They've done deals their whole life. I get it. I love the fact that America... So, I have always been an advocate of leadership. Malaysia has lacked a leader for years and years. We don't know whether we're coming or going. But because we live here, right, our love for our country and its leaders to step up, right? Rather than just take.
To be honest, I think this is where I mean, whilst we're analyzing it, and most of our audience actually comes from North America and
the North
UK,
American audience,
but for our domestic audience, right, it's actually lessons to be learned rather than just being spoon-fed by the mainstream media that is very anti-Trump. What we are discussing, we are showing, look, this is how a cabinet should run, and they are managing every function and integrating each function, I mean, how did he stop the war between Thailand and Cambodia? I'm not going to trade with you guys if you guys going to fight.
He played that card again, of course, right?
No politician would have thought that way.
Yeah, but do you see, I mean, beyond those headlines, right? What if there's territorial disputes? They didn't address that. Even Thailand didn't call it a peace deal, right? They didn't, right?
Well, here's the thing.
It's not a peace deal.
It's always better to stop it. In fact, this is what ASEAN was supposed to do,
but didn't.
And because we have gotten to become very complacent about it, right? Because you remember the formation of ASEAN? Why was ASEAN formed? ASEAN was formed in order to keep peace in the region.
Unify the region, right? Open borders, that kind of thing. Very European Union-like, right?
It's not. We were ahead of the European Union.
We wanted a common market, right?
That's the whole idea. We were not talking about common market. The reason ASEAN was formed is actually to ensure that there is no wars between the countries.
And did ASEAN do that? No.
We did. We did for a long while. You remember when Malaysia was formed, okay? Indonesia invaded.
Oh, you're going back a long while now.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That was the reason ASEAN was formed. That is part of the reason ASEAN was formed.
But then secondarily,
we had disputes between the Philippines and Malaysia because of the Sabah.
Yeah.
Because of and Mindanao, right? So that is exactly the reason for ASEAN.
But the trade would have been the cement which fostered the ties between, because if you're doing business and prospering together, why dispute? I mean, so that was the ultimate, that's what the AEC was formed, right? Etc. But this Trump visit has exposed ASEAN's frailties.
But it actually has made it better, if you ask me.
Okay, well, those disputes have receded, but there's no discussion about troops withdrawal. There's no discussion about territorial boundaries. There's no discussion about even being defined as a peace deal. You know, the Thai-Cambodia thing, right?
Well, I think expecting everything to be done in one go
not realistic.
It's not realistic.
Yeah. So this is where ASEAN comes in, or Hegseth comes in and cements it.
Everything has to be, and sometimes the disputes has to be worked out between both parties. It's really not for a third party to come and tell you. That is why, actually, if you ask me...
And even more embarrassing for ASEAN, because you've got this guy who hasn't visited for years and years, or American that's treated this place as a backwater. He comes in, and then he takes all the plaudits.
Yeah, because he did it.
Yeah, he did it. So it's embarrassing for ASEAN.
Yeah.
It's just embarrassing. Let's just call a spade, right? So maybe we should pull our fingers out and get shit done.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, I mean, then that's why I keep saying, and I keep saying about it. I said, having American being interested in the region is very important.
You know, it's like the group CEO of a big bank, right? He's got branches all over the country. And then he's got one, let's just call it, say, Sarawak, right? He once in every few years, he goes to visit his branch network in Sabah or Sarawak. Like maybe he's got 20 branches there. He's got 2,000 branches, but he visits it. He rarely visits that. But once he'll come, and then everybody's like, oh, the CEO is here. Oh, they roll out the red carpet. And then, wow. It's like that.
But it gets things...
ASEAN is like that to America, I think, right?
I don't know. I'm hoping not. Because I think
it's of growing importance.
Because why? They've got to balance out what is happening in China. Because like it or not, you know, I mean, no matter how even my negative perception of their economic situation and whatever that is happening within China, right? China is here to stay.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And that's a big economy, and that's an economy that's gonna have a lot of influence, right? And you need to balance that out. And if America wants to ensure that it has it wants to keep its currency as the reserve currency of the world, it has to ensure that its primacy is still there. And the way to do that is exactly
to keep the transactions going,
and actually to be involved in the region. And as I said, if you take, I'm sorry to my African friends, now I'm going that way. I'm sorry to my African friends, you know, you guys have a lot of shit to sort out.
Long way to go.
A long way to go. All right? And even with the problems that we face in Asia and in Southeast Asia, the culture of our people is such that we are moving ahead.
Yeah.
You know, and we are a growth region, right? And we'll figure it out.
Do you remember last year? I know I was talking about de-dollarization. He was talking about BRICS. He was talking about, remember that time,
He still talk about it.
Correct.
Yeah. So I think, you ask me, it's going to come to a natural death. And whether people agree with me or not, it's irrelevant. But I am poly-marketing it now. Okay?
Poly-marketing it.
Yes, I'm poly-marketing it now. Because why? As I said already, sorry, my Indian friends, you're still a basket case.
Yeah.
Okay? Sorry, Russia, you can't even win a 4-week war.
Yeah.
Okay? And you're already 4 years in it with only defensive weapons on tiny Ukraine. And you rely to fund your machinery of war through the purchase of your oil from China and India. Okay? So you're a basket case too. All right? And China, I think, with what is going on right now, I know a lot of people still think very highly of how the economic growth is going to be, blah, blah, blah. I beg to differ. I think they are in a lot of problem, systemic, and actually I feel bad for the Chinese people for one thing. I think Deng Xiaoping did a great reformation of the Chinese society. Okay? Unfortunately, as it went along, the system, when it is a one-state system and GDP pulls everything and one party controls everything, allocation of capital is very different than in a capitalist society.
Yeah.
You don't care because it's not your money.
Yeah.
Right? So imagine even in our democracy, some of our governments don't care where they put the money.
Yeah.
Imagine in a country like that.
Yeah. So the opacity has always been a concern in China, which is to say you can't rely on the data.
And that is why they're having this problem right now. Okay? So who is going to be the reserve currency for BRICS? So I said, I poly-market it now, please. Dumb. That's it. That's my call.
What's your call?
My call is BRICS is dead. Okay? And America is back, and you better get on board.
Does the world need an alternative currency?
No.
The problem is, and I think this is one. No,
you can trade in euro. We do trades in euro.
Correct. And I mean, but in narrow circumstances,
yes.
right? And it's the thing with renminbi and all that, right?
Yeah.
But the problem is, when America started to weaponize the currency, right? And when they took, I think, Russia off the SWIFT, right? When they invaded Ukraine, when they started to do that, and when they started to weaponize the dollar, that's when people thought to themselves, okay, hang on, this is not cricket. You cannot do that. You shouldn't do that.
Well, you shouldn't invade Ukraine in the first place.
Correct. But then there's the reasons. You can go back in history, right? The boundaries and the promises made in the 60s and so on and so forth, and with NATO and all that, right? You can see the encroachment. It's true. It happened, right? You can go back in history and talk about all those things.
I would rather...
So nothing happens in a void. Everything is the sum total of what's happened before that. We know that, right? But the thing is, when you are trusted with the global reserve currency and you use it for these means, when in fact the reason for the invasion was those things, and people will argue till their faces turn blue, the motivations behind those attacks. I get it, right? But that's one of the reasons why this whole de-dollarization gathered momentum. It's been happening for years, but it just gathered more steam.
I kept mentioning that actually the attempt at de-dollarization has been going on since the 1980s.
Correct. Yeah? And I get why people want to do it.
It never happened. I'm saying again, it's not just not going to happen, and especially with how Trump has recalibrated the fundamentals of commerce, global commerce. I think just wake up lah. All I'm saying is actually to our American viewers is basically look at what you've got and actually take advantage of how this administration has recalibrated the world on your behalf instead of just attacking him, especially the mainstream media.
Okay, yeah. So fuck the mainstream media, right? I mean, fuck it.
So I think got to take advantage. The entrepreneurs need to take advantage, and actually do the trade as best they can, because I want to do trade with them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think America, more than any other country in the world, has a perspective and an intelligence and the educational background to understand more than most countries in the world. Let's just say, let's give them the credit,
Yeah.
to understand the nuances of what's going on. I would like, and this is my kind of like narrative to the American audience, right? To when they see this content being talked about by two Asians from Asia, right?
Right.
The impression I would get if I was in America would be that these guys are a pushover, right? They just fall over with their skirts up and say, "Take me from behind" when my president goes to their part of the world, and then it becomes it amplifies American exceptionalism. It gives them even more arrogance, right? Which of course should not be the case, because it should be more quid pro quo.
Well,
do you know what I mean? Right? Because you cannot go around, and I don't think Donald Trump is like that, because I think as a businessman, for him it's quid pro quo. You've got a benefit and I've got a benefit, but there has to be one winner, and it's America. But it's a fine balancing act. Is what I'm saying.
Fine balancing act. It's you can't like what Ford was saying, right? Henry Ford.
Yeah.
Right. He has to pay his people well so that they can buy his cars.
Correct.
Right?
Yeah.
So I think this is the ethos that actually people don't understand when they deal with of course they are the the mindset of being number one is one thing that people do not understand, unfortunately. I think that culture, in that sense, people do not understand. And they take it wrongly. For me, having lived there and doing business.
Actually, you're an American. I think you're a Malaysian in disguise.
No, it's like it's very simple. Is that like, what's the point of doing anything if you're not gonna be the best? I think that's the ethos.
Yeah.
Right? So and being the
but the problem with that is that there has to be a winner and a loser. If America is the winner, then that makes us the losers.
Well, if you look at it, there must be a lousy loser because there must be a lousy winner, because why? They have almost trade deficits with almost every country.
But that's necessary to keep the dollar in circulation. I mean, that's the name of the game. You can't have a trade surplus.
No,
if you want your dollars in circulation.
You should certain places you should have deficits, certain places you should have some surplus.
You want your transaction partners to owe you money, right?
And
you want to owe them money so then you can keep the transactions going. That's the name of the game. That's why you're the global reserve currency. It's the lay of the land. That's why you're the US dollar, right? I mean, you need to have that.
Not necessary.
That inequality.
No, you only need to actually have, a balanced trade. If you ask me,
that's not how it works.
But at the end of the day, because why I say that is because you look at China, right? They have surplus with everybody, right?
Yeah,
and that's getting them into trouble too.
Okay, so it's very different situations, right?
Of course,
very different situations. Of course, yeah.
But that is a cause of their own problem now, because they have overbuilt things, right? And they have to dump shit, okay? Because their own consumer market is almost non-existent.
Yeah.
So this is where we are at. When we look at this recalibration, as we said, I think if I were to put it together, what we have seen now, we started when last week we talked about before he came to KL with Jason, and we were talking to Jason about it. So we were making predictions, right?
We were making assumptions about how and why
things will turn out.
Yeah, and why he's here in the first place.
Correct.
I think it's now abundantly
clear, in it.
His motivations.
Yes.
Yeah.
And basically what you have, like you said, for you, it's about, it muddies the water. Okay? For me, it makes it clearer that actually, okay, I see who's winning. I see who is actually balancing it right. Okay? And therefore, how do I then navigate this rebalancing that has happened? Okay?
Okay, so let's try and throw it forward as all good commentators do.
Sure.
Okay. So it's like, okay, so what and what happens next? I guess we don't have too much time, but I guess,
Yeah.
right? I'm just going to try and, okay, so maybe we'll start with you. And we'll, I mean, obviously predicting the future is difficult, right? But what does it mean? So what, right? What happens next? He's a year away from midterms.
Yeah.
So he's doing all he can to make sure that he's puts on a good show, right? I think the rest of the world is in a bit of a mess. Europe's in a mess. China's in a mess, right? We don't know whether we're coming or going, right? I think in Malaysia,
and that
ASEAN,
is the problem that we face.
Yeah.
Actually, this is the problem. It's our own undoing, right? So if I were giving, I'm more like giving advice, right? Is to put our house in order, bring our cost of doing business down.
Yeah.
Okay. One of the biggest problem that we face actually is not the tariff. It's not the 19% tariff that has been put upon us. It's actually our own cost of doing business. Okay. We have an over bloated bureaucracy. We have over regulation. Okay, and we are adding regulation, which actually what Trump is doing in America is actually deregulating. I mean, he's got a rule where for every one regulation that you propose, you have to bring 10 regulation that you dismantle.
Okay.
Okay? Why can't we learn from this? Right? So we have to have a free market in our own country. We don't have a free market in our own country. We don't allow our entrepreneurs to actually be able to have cheap energy. Our energy prices must be cheap. We are a net producer, and yet our energy prices is high. Why?
What I would like Malaysia to do, certainly from entrepreneurs, is to be able to compete in the domestic market without competing with the government.
Exactly.
Because the government is everywhere, right?
Yeah.
From food manufacturing to energy distribution to telecommunications, etc., to airport infrastructure and so on and so forth.
I'm going to say,
if you're in the technology, if you're a tech startup, you're competing with government tech startups.
Dude, let me tell you this. I'll give a very simple example. Okay? A very simple example that can be controversial. Okay? Why do I need a halal certificate?
Exactly.
Why do I need a halal certificate?
Yeah.
You tell me, please.
Yeah.
Okay? I grew up in the 70s.
Yeah.
Okay? What my teachers told me is very simple. As long as you have confidence, it's halal.
Okay. What I'm going to say.
So that is a big industry. Okay? That is a big industry of halal certification. It's a big
OIC,
industry.
Right? It's 3 billion Muslims around the world, right?
It's additional cost of doing business, right? Now they're not even allowing people to have, even saying that if they've got no pork or whatever like that, hey, leave me alone. Leave me alone to make my own commercial decisions.
Yeah. I mean, Malaysia now has got this South Johor, Singapore economic zone, right?
All right.
They're trying to mirror Shenzhen. It's going to be the Southeast Asia's answer to Shenzhen, right? I think Malaysia can do a lot of stuff there. I see no reason why they can't, as you say, deregulate at least that part of the zone, right? And then bring in some of America's biggest companies, whether it's Nvidia or Tesla or these hyperscalers like Meta, to invest in that part of the world. I don't see any reason why, right? And why wouldn't they? I mean, the data usage, the AI, all that can be produced in Malaysia. I'm just saying.
Do you know that Indonesia has already made what do you call? I think mandatory teaching in English.
Yeah, I'm not surprised, right? It's the lingua franca of the business world.
Yeah, it's the problem is when you don't have that lingua franca. Okay, it's not about just business world.
It's crippling.
It's crippling you when you are growing up because knowledge is written in that language.
And look at you, right? You're a good example. You're Malay, you're Bumi Putra, but you speak English. You can speak with the British, the Americans, the Australians.
And actually, as I was growing
so
up,
yeah.
I was absorbing all sorts of knowledge.
Yes.
Because they were so accessible.
Yeah.
Imagine when you don't have that.
Yeah.
Or you're handicapped.
You are imprisoned.
You're blinkered.
Yeah. Okay. So I think I need a wrap because
I think we wrapped a bit earlier today.
Yeah. What's on the docket for next week?
What's on the docket for next week?
I think we don't even bother talk because I think that between now and then
something is going to happen.
Yeah. We've got this guy who's on the world stage.
It's almost like every day there's something that is happening that impacts every other place in the globe.
Yeah.
You know?
Warp speed.
Yeah. It's like it's no need. It's going to happen, right? You think you'll be talking about nuclear tests today?
Yeah, it'll be different again next week.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, so let's keep it at that. I think we're gonna put my
link to your column in there.
To my column on Free Malaysia today.
Yeah. Suffice to say, America should be happy, but from this whirlwind tour, Asians, I think for us, we need to think about our positions in that world, this ever-changing world. And let's see whether our policymakers respond. So thank you for listening to the Gut Chat podcast. Sam, Chuang, and myself. Share, like, subscribe, comment.
Yes, please.
Yes, the vast majority of listeners, viewers, have not subscribed. Please do so.
Yeah.
It would help us immeasurably if you do. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Cheers.
Yeah.